The last team to win 3 straight national titles was Minnesota, all the way back from 1934 to 1936. But that record very well could be broken this year by the Georgia Bulldogs, who are once again loaded on both sides of the ball and face one of the easiest schedules in the country, a perfect little cakewalk to the college football playoff for the reigning national champions. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today as we break down everything you need to know for the Georgia Bulldogs 2023 college football season. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the country over there for one of the lowest prices in the country. We've beat out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 5 years. So it's guaranteed money right back in your pocket, guaranteed winnings. We can guarantee that for you. We can guarantee a winning season. Don't miss out on that opportunity. Take advantage of it for a full year-long subscription and go sign up today. Check out our Patreon account down in the description below as well. Become a member of our Patreon Wall of Fame for exclusive college football content year-round. And check out our mailing address as well. Send us some gear. We're trying to represent the entire SEC here, along with plenty of other teams across the country as we try to expand our GE Nation from coast to coast and represent those teams in every single Gridiron Expert video. So let's take a look at Georgia, guys. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, man, do we really have to predict this team? Like, I think we all know what's going to happen, but we're going to break it down anyways. This Georgia team was unbelievable last year. They will be again this year, winning the national championship in 2022, 65-7 over TCU. Held the Horned Frogs to just 188 yards in that game while putting up 589 of their own. I mean, it was an unbelievable showing against TCU. But now you look at this year. Obviously, Georgia loses a handful of players on both sides of the ball. They lose their star quarterback in Stetson Bennett. For many, that's a huge loss. For Georgia, they were loaded in the quarterback room anyways. It appears that's going to be Carson Beck that takes over under center for Georgia. He is a highly touted guy. Only had 35 pass attempts last year, but he's extremely accurate. Seems calm under pressure, got a great arm. This is going to be really, really good for Georgia. Getting a guy in there that's been with the program for a little bit, not long, but for a little bit, has that experience, and obviously has that ability that we've seen in practice, that we've seen in the spring game, that we've seen in the very limited real playing time that he's had. Carson Beck is going to be phenomenal at quarterback this year for Georgia. Then you look at who else they have. An offense that averaged 501 yards per game, loses their star quarterback, replace them with a guy that some could say could be even better. They returned Dajon Edwards and Kendall Milton at running back. They returned their top 2 pass catchers, including Brock Bowers, who had 942 yards and 7 touchdowns last year as a tight end, arguably the best tight end in the country, and then Ladd McConkey as well. Those 2 guys returned to give Carson Beck some great pass catchers to throw to. Defensively, always strong under Kirby Smart, right? Always good for Georgia. 7 starters back on that side of the ball. They allowed just 14.3 points per game, just 297 yards per game last year. Their top 3 tacklers return. The secondary is loaded. Javon Bullard is back there. Malachi Starks is back there. It's going to be really hard to throw against Georgia, first off. And it's always hard to run against the Bulldogs. They consistently have one of the better rushing defenses in the country, only giving up 77 rushing yards per game last year. So this Georgia team loaded on both sides. They have plenty of new pieces, but still looking like they could find a way to replicate the success they had last year. Not just because of the talent, but also the schedule. I mean, it is unbelievable for a reigning national champion to have this type of schedule. And it's by no fault of Georgia. People are going to be quick to criticize it. I mean, yes, could they have scheduled better non-conference games rather than UT Martin, Ball State, and UAB? Sure. And obviously they play Georgia Tech, but that's always going to be a lock there. Sure, but they can't affect their SEC schedule. They got a great draw. They drew Ole Miss and Auburn out of the West. They avoid LSU. They avoid Alabama. You know, in the SEC East as a whole, with the exception of Tennessee, isn't really all that great this year. And they don't play Tennessee until the second to last week of the year. So let's dive into their schedule, and it'll go by pretty quick. They'll start 4-0. We'll go with the first 4 home games. First 4 weeks, Georgia's at home. They win every single one. They breeze past UT Martin. They breeze past Ball State. They beat South Carolina 48-7 last year. While the Gamecocks are certainly improving under Shane Beamer, they do not have enough to come into Athens to win this game. They're 3-0. They beat UAB. They're 4-0. Just like that, 4-0, and probably the number 1 team in the country, as they should be. And they go on the road to take on Auburn. Auburn with Hugh Freeze. A lot of excitement down there on the Plains. Big-time rivalry game. But here's the thing, Georgia's going to win this game pretty convincingly. They won 42-10 last year over the Tigers. They outgained them 500 yards to 258 yards. Georgia has also dominated this series. They've won the last 5 regular season meetings. They've won 15 of the last 18 meetings overall. And while Auburn does improve a little bit, I don't think Hugh Freeze has his offense rolling enough to, really challenge this Georgia defense. And the Auburn defense, as bad as it was last year, will improve, but not enough to slow down this Georgia offense. So even though the game is on the road, they hadn't faced Georgia before, and it won't now. They'll beat the Tigers. They'll beat Kentucky. Kentucky gave Georgia a decent test last year, only losing 16-6. The Wildcats gave everything they had. And I think the offense for Kentucky is pretty solid with Devin Leary coming in at quarterback. They should have better quarterback play this year than they had last year with an inconsistent Will Levis. But it's ultimately not going to be enough to beat Georgia, especially in Athens. So they beat Kentucky. They'll beat Vanderbilt with ease. They have shut out Vanderbilt each of the last 2 years. So back-to-back shutouts, winning 117-0 over the Commodores the last 2 years. I don't know if Vandy's going to get points this year. The offense has definitely improved for Vanderbilt, no doubt about it. But it'd be pretty wild if they can get the trifecta, 3 straight natties and then 3 straight shutouts over Vanderbilt. I don't know which one's more impressive. They beat Vanderbilt. They head into their bye week and take on Florida in Jacksonville, the largest outdoor cocktail party. Going to be a lot of fun. Last year, the game was weird. Georgia was blowing them out of the water, and then Florida battled back, made it a 28-20 game. And then Georgia was like, whoa, hey, this is too close for us. We kind of put ourselves on autopilot, and Florida took advantage of it. And then they went back, scored 2 quick touchdowns, won the game 42-20. But Florida's going to struggle this year, guys. Defensively, should be pretty solid. A lot of it for them is going to come down to quarterback play. I like Florida's run game. I don't like anything else offensively. I don't really know if I have a lot of faith in Graham Mertz, who really couldn't play well in the Big Ten at Wisconsin. I don't have much faith in him now coming into the swamp and being this savior for Florida at quarterback. Georgia should win this game rather comfortably as well. I'd definitely say by double digits with ease. They beat Florida, and then they take on Missouri. Oddly enough, Missouri and Ohio State. Those were the 2 teams that gave Georgia their toughest test last year and their biggest scares last year. Missouri nearly beat Georgia in Columbia last year. They were down 10, guys. Missouri led 22-12 in the 4th quarter. And then Georgia woke up and scored the game-winning touchdown with 4:03 remaining in the game to win 26-22. Missouri probably should have won that game. It was a heartbreaking loss to the Tigers. But good teams find a way to win. That's exactly what Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs did. Anything can happen in the wild SEC. Anything can happen in college football. You can never take a game or an opponent for granted. And we saw that multiple times last year. We saw that last year with Georgia, Missouri. I love the Tigers' defense. I think they're going to be really, really salty this year, but I have no faith in their offense. They've got to find some consistency at quarterback, whether that's Brady Cook or somebody else. I don't think they're going to have enough to win. Georgia's going to be anxious to say, yeah, we won last year, but we want to win by a lot more this year to kind of show it was a little bit of a fluke. Game is in Athens. They win big. Then they face Ole Miss. First meeting between Kirby Smart and Lane Kiffin. So the defensive mind of Kirby Smart, the offensive mind of Lane Kiffin. Going to be a lot of fun to see how those 2 styles go up against each other. But it is senior day for Georgia, and I don't think the Ole Miss defense has enough to stop the Bulldogs. So the Ole Miss offense is going to pull out all the stops. And I think you're going to see some gimmicks early where Ole Miss scores a couple early touchdowns, and people are like, hey, we might have a game in Athens. Like, hey, this is actually going to be a little bit closer than we think. And then things start to settle down. The Ole Miss defense can't get the stops they need. The offense is great. The defense, Georgia finds a way to start wearing them down slowly but surely. They win this game by at least 10 points as well. Beat Ole Miss at home. They're still undefeated. And then they go into their toughest test of the year. If Georgia's losing a game this year, it's coming at Tennessee. Let's be honest. If they're losing a game, it's coming in Knoxville. We know how tough Neyland Stadium is to play. We know that. We saw that last year where Alabama lost to Tennessee in Knoxville 52-49. But last year in Athens, Georgia kind of made a bit of a statement, right? Tennessee was getting all this hype. They were the number 1 team in the country in the playoff rankings, booed them out, and Georgia said, come on, are you serious? We deserve that spot. We are the number 1 team in the country, and they proved it. Georgia winning 27-13 holding that electric Tennessee offense led by Hendon Hooker to just 289 yards. Now, the Volunteers do not have Hendon Hooker. Yes, they have Joe Milton, who's great, but he's no Hooker. They do not have Cedric Tillman. They do not have Jalen Hyatt. And the Tennessee defense, while they return 7 starters, will be solid, but I don't think has enough to slow down Georgia. Georgia, in all aspects of the game, is better than Tennessee. The only thing they don't have is home field advantage. And Georgia can and will overcome that. They will beat Tennessee. It will be close. It will be the toughest test they face all year long. But I do think Georgia has enough to take down the Volunteers. They win that game, and they breeze past Georgia Tech. New coach for the Yellow Jackets in Brent Key. They beat them 37-14 last year. Was just a 10-7 game at halftime. The Yellow Jackets tried to give them everything they had. Then Georgia pulled away. They've won 5 straight. They've won 11 of the last 13 against their in-state rival. It's about to be 12 of the last 14. The Yellow Jackets improved, but not nearly enough to take down Georgia. And with that, the Bulldogs go 12-0. Again, we probably could have done this video in 3 minutes, but I felt that would have been disrespectful. I don't see any way Georgia loses a game on this game. I mean, anything can happen, right? Anything can happen in college football. If they're losing the game, it's coming at Tennessee, but I don't see any way they lose any other game on the schedule. The SEC slate is extremely favorable. The cross-division games are extremely favorable. The non-conference slate is extremely favorable. Georgia has a cakewalk back to the SEC championship game, and if they go into the championship game at 12-0, it really doesn't matter what happens in that game. Win it, lose it, doesn't matter. Georgia is going back to the college football playoff, and they will have a shot at winning their 3rd straight national title. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com, our Patreon account for exclusive college football content year-round. Send us some gear to the mailing address down below so we can represent the Georgia Bulldogs, so we can represent the rest of the SEC as we expand our GE Nation from coast to coast. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.